Hi students, I'm here to discuss with you some note-taking strategies that will hopefully help you improve your learning so you can study less and learn more. So let's get started. First of all, why take notes in the first place? Well, I'll give you a couple reasons why. First of all, taking notes helps you pay attention to your teacher more because you have a goal of taking notes and trying to recall and summarize the information. That's a simple answer there. Taking notes reduces the amount of time that you have to study outside of class. I'll go over that a little bit more, but if you're paying close attention to what's happening in class, then you're going to recall the information more readily than if you'd been distracted in a million different places. Taking notes cements your knowledge in your long-term memory, and I'll go over that a little bit later. And taking notes engages your higher order thinking skills. People who take notes themselves, then process it and kind of internalize it, tend to have better advanced higher order thinking skills in the subjects that they take notes from in their classes. And taking notes simply has been shown to help people score higher on tests, especially if they have good note-taking skills. So we don't just want to take notes, we want to take notes to improve our performance and to improve what we remember. And so let's go over some of the more effective ways we can use note-taking to our advantage. So notes are not dictation. Just want to get that out of the way. Taking notes is not the same as writing down verbatim what somebody says. So I'm going to show you a little bit more about what that means. Our memory is part of this, network of different synapses and neural pathways that are constantly being created. But in the most simple form, basically, here's a little visual for you. We have around us lots of sensory information. So when you go to class, you have sensory information, the sights and the sounds of the room, the teacher's voice, the slides they're putting up, the sound of your friend chewing on some gum. There's just lots of sensory information going on. But what goes from sensory information into your short-term memory is selective, and then you can help with consolidating what goes from short-term memory into your long-term memory. That consolidation process, note-taking can be part of that consolidation process, and rehearsal also can just bring back things from your long-term memory, go back into short-term memory. So we need to pay close attention to the ways in which we are consolidating and improving our memory and going back and forth between the long-term and bringing things into our short-term memory and our active working memory. So that's a very oversimplified model of how our brains are kind of working, but memory consolidation is one of the things that note-taking will help you to do. All right, paper notes or electronic notes. I'll let you decide, but here are some different points to consider. On paper, you have freestyle formatting. Paper might be slower for writing your notes. You only have one copy of your paper notes unless you decide to go and make copies on a copy machine. Paper notes are a little harder to dictate on. It's harder to write down with your own hand exactly what the teacher is saying. So that actually might work more in your favor. On paper, if you are not necessarily taking notes word for word, you have to process the true meaning of what's being said, and that's really, really important. And with paper, you can just focus on the note-taking. There's not a lot of other distractions that might pop up in your way. Now with electronics, you're limited in formatting to what the word processor decides for you. If you have Microsoft Office, Microsoft Word, Google, whatever kind of platforms you're using, you're limited by the kinds of images they make you create and the way that they format their documents. For some of us, electronic note-taking is faster because we can type really fast. That might not be the case for you, so I don't want to make any blanket statements, but consider whether or not you're faster at it and can get more information down. Your electronic notes are saved to a cloud or to devices. It's easier to dictate when you're in electronic format, meaning especially if you're a fast typer. you're less likely to really get the true meaning of things. Your brain is processing the syntax. Basically, you are just hearing words and you're putting the words down. And so it's just kind of on autopilot. You're going from one thing to the next. And another downside of electronics is that it can be easy to get distracted by other apps or activities you can do on your computer or your smartphone or however you're doing it. So try to put it in airplane mode or do not disturb mode when you are taking notes on an electronic device. That would be my suggestion. Here are 5 different note-taking systems that are covered by Thomas Frank in this video, and I invite you to watch his video. He will explain them more in depth than I will here. If you need a system to help you sort of make sense of your notes, I invite you to try one of these 5 systems that he thinks work really well, and maybe you'll find one that you like. The outline method, that's just one where you make a lot of bullet points. You have your main points as the top bullets, and then as you go on throughout the note-taking process, you add more bullet points and subtopics to each of those. The Cornell method is basically you have a piece of paper or maybe a virtual piece of paper where you divide it into 3 sections, and you have a section for notes, section for questions about those notes, and a summary. The mind map method, this one is an interconnected web of different ideas and hierarchies of concepts. This can be good for organizing your thoughts. And the flow method is a little bit more freestyle. I think that's what it means. I'm less familiar with this method, but I do believe it's trying to make sure that your notes are a good flow of the information from your brain to the paper. And last of all, if your teacher provides you with lecture slides ahead of time, there's nothing saying you couldn't print those off and take notes on the lecture slides. If your teacher has a lot of words on the lecture slides, which they shouldn't, that will help you, especially because then you will not need to dictate because you'll have the words there. But on the flip side, it might then mean that you don't take the time to process through the writing by hand some of the concepts. So take your pick or try different ones and see how they work for you. Okay, last of all, the next few tips that I give are totally agnostic as to these do not matter which system you're using, paper or electronic or any of that, but they're just best practices for note-taking in whatever format you choose. I would say the point of taking notes is to really just identify the most important points. If you can't identify the most important points of your notes, then you need to reread your notes and find them and highlight them, okay? That should be the point of taking notes, to help you to look through the weeds and find what are most important for future tests, for your future job, the things that you will be asked most frequently about. Next is use the fewest words possible to convey meaning. So first of all, we want to make sure that we convey meaning in our words. If you're using too few words, and then you can't get the gist of what you're trying to say. So try to convey meaning, but try to do it in pictures, in shorthand, in different ways that will help you to not get distracted from your purpose of just having the meat of the information there. And when you try to use the fewest words possible, that is that consolidation process. That's part of our brain trying to transform our information into something that somebody else knows, into something that we know and that we have internalized. You can ask your instructor to slow down. This is a huge one. Be communicative with your instructor about your desire to take notes. If you feel that they are going too fast, let them know, and hopefully they'll respect that and they'll want to help you with that, or ask them if they have a video somewhere that you can watch later to make sure you understood everything they were talking about. So don't be afraid to talk to your instructor, and they hopefully will want to be your ally and help you to make the best use of notes possible. And last of all, I believe this is the most important thing. Whatever you do with your notes, please review them within 24 hours. So when I mean by review, I mean edit, rewrite, summarize, highlight, like make sure that you are looking through your notes for maybe errors that you made, clarify things. That will be that's like another note-taking session, and it doesn't have to take long. I think it could take you 10-15 minutes to just look over a couple pages of notes and then just highlight the most important things that stuck out to you. Because after you leave your class, you kind of go about your merry way, but you want to bring it back into your memory. And within 24 hours is important because there's something called the forgetting curve that scientists have identified, which is that our brains really, if we don't use it, we lose it. And so if within 24 hours you don't practice something, you have lost, upwards of 50% of the information that you just learned. So bring it back to your memory within 24 hours, hopefully like right before you go to bed or something. And then you will give your brain some time to process and to code it in. And then as you gradually have this system of reviewing your notes, again, it will take you less time to study outside of class. You'll just kind of get into a rhythm there. And this will help you to do better on your tests and to then not cram when you're getting ready at the end of the semester for something that's like a cumulative test. So if you don't remember anything else I talked about in this video, remember to review your notes within 24 hours.